space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Oh, you're on mute, Jim.
Oh, you are. Wait, can everybody hear?
We're all here.
I'll start again. Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, is Admiral Elliot, and joining us again, Dr. Squee.
Hi there.
Was that a no, you are, or was that literally?
You were showing mute on my screen, and I think was I showing mute on your screen?
Yeah. Elliot was showing us as on for both of us, but sorry, anyway, I digress.
Right.
Hello!
We're having hours and hours of fun already with this one. So anybody who's watching this stream live, well done, because it nearly didn't happen. Anyone who's listening on the podcast, you'll wonder what on earth we're talking about. Well, I will tell you what we are talking about. First of all, we're looking at Bride of Chaotica from Voyager, carrying on our holodeck trawl. And we're also going to look at Heart of Stone, which is the next increment in the Dominion War saga, kind of.
Yeah, it's another lead up to the Dominion War.
Yeah, it has a member of the Dominion in it. So that is good enough for it to get on our list.
We said that we were doing it in depth, and we are.
Yep.
By the way, spoilers.
Well, I think people know that we spoil stuff now. But Dr. Squee, you weren't here when we covered the classic episode Meridian. Now that is doing a deep dive into the Dominion War, because there is one line of dialogue in the opening teaser. We had to cover one of the worst episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Oh no, just applause to that. By the way, guys, I realized I found some of my old VHS tapes, and you forget how big they are when you go to put them in, because geez, man, I tell you. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
What's that? Oh, hold that up. Because that proves something that we've been talking about. So we can see the episodes. Right, initiations and non sequitur. So those are the first 2 episodes of season 2, except they're not. They only are on the UK VHS release.
Yeah.
Oh, so which ones were?
Well, they were actually the first 2 episodes filmed for season 2, but they held back 4 episodes from season 1 to go into season 2. So they did the 37s, then initiations.
Oh, okay.
So there we go. And I remember that prop that you're holding up there. For anyone who's listening on the podcast, Dr. Squeak has an enormous VHS video standee, which they used as a point of sale in video shops, which used to be a thing in the UK.
Well, I think worldwide everyone had Blockbuster.
Yes, they did. But that used to, I remember seeing one of them in MVC.
I think it's safe to say now that probably everyone concerned is retired. But because I would go on really well with the stuff at WH Smith's when I was a kid, I used to go out there and I always used to buy the tapes of DS9 and Voyager.
Yeah.
And they knew me so well, and they kind of like I got on with them so well. They were like, "Oh yeah." They tell us like, by the way, we get these on a Friday. If you come in, or for a Saturday morning, I forget which it was. If you come in the morning on that day, we'll just sign it out to you. You know, just don't tell anyone. So I used to get the videos a couple of days before release.
And that is why Woolworths is no longer a shop in the UK.
It was Smith's, and they're still going.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we did. A friend of mine worked at, I won't say the name of the supermarket, but they let him have the Star Wars The Phantom Menace a day early. And
I bet he was pleased about that.
It was at the time, but then we watched it and we were like, oh, no.
The Phantom Menace didn't age well between cinema and video, let alone to now.
I mean, I know the home video market isn't what it used to be, certainly, but like you can imagine now, the security, like the idea of someone getting released early, just unheard of. If that someone gets so fired that second, but that power used to be in the hands of a middle-aged woman who was working in Smiths to just go, yeah, there you go, it's a few days early.
I remember I was devastated once. I went in MVC and they had, do you remember Robin of Sherwood, the TV show?
Yeah.
And they finally released it on VHS, and I was like, yes, I'm going to end it. They had the whole third series with Jason Connery. So I picked up all 4 of them, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get these. I haven't seen these for years. And they were like, yeah, they don't come out until next Monday, so you can't have them now. And I was like, but you had them on the shelf? And they were like, yeah, no, you can't have them.
Were you served by both Selector?
That used to happen a lot with their videos.
Yeah.
That they put them out on the shelf to sort of show you what was coming out, and it's sort of like, well, why show me? Just put a poster up. Don't fill your shelves with it.
And that was it. Yeah. These are the trials and tribulations of VHS video shops. Now that we're done with our reminiscences, let's talk about Bride of Chaotica then. So this is one that I think is thought of very, very fondly when people talk about Voyager.
Well, it's thought of that fondly that Robert was allegedly pitching it as an idea to CBS for a series last week.
I mean, I'm not being funny. We all age. Robert Duncan McNeil does not look now like he did back then.
No, he doesn't.
And like, I don't think he's got that square-jawed Flash Gordon kind of look to him anymore.
I also think that there are certain actors who maybe, and I don't think he is this, is like there's some actors who go, it's like, no, I could still do it. Like, I think he's more down to earth than believing.
To be fair, I think with Robert Duncan McNeil, like, he spends his time directing now.
Oh, he does.
I think he'd be more interested in actually getting involved in the writing and the directing of it, as opposed to being the showrunner, as opposed to being the star.
And also, he's an exec producer on that new Turner and Hooch show and on Resident Alien. So I don't imagine the guy's got a lot of free time at the minute.
Not until Turner and Hooch gets cancelled.
Why would it? I mean, come on. Have you watched it?
No.
I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, endless storylines there. I mean, let's just say, by episode 2, they're doing a Die Hard spoof, but with a dog. And it's got quite an amusing title because I'm assuming that the word dog doesn't have the same connotation in the US as it does here. But this is the title of that episode, A Good Day to Dog Hard.
Okay. I mean, look.
Yep.
Now you say that, it does.
I imagine that on UK release might have to change its title.
No, it doesn't. They've kept the title. I watched it the other day, and it was not what I was expecting from that title.
I'm telling you, like, it doesn't surprise me at all that they're doing that in the second episode. But
no,
in fact, yeah.
I'm looking forward to episode 3, see what happens there. But anyway, right, Bride of Chaotica, come on. Focus, guys, focus. So yeah, it starts off very sort of serial style, like it gives us the sort of on the previous Captain Proton, and we get all that stuff. It's very lovingly done, isn't it? It's a really, it's
a proper tribute to the 30 serials.
Yeah,
when I was growing up, like I'm a bit older than you guys, but on BBC Two. Regularly, they used to show these theatre plays, cinema plays.
Yeah. No, I remember.
Yeah, like, so I grew up watching like the Flash Gordons and the Buck Rogers, King of the Rocket Men, all them sort of things from the 30s and 40s, and I love this. This is like, I love this episode because of that.
Yeah, they are great. I mean, the serial style, and really early on, we get the thing where Tom explains to Harry, like, he says, well, that didn't happen last week. And he's like, no, you see, this is...
Yeah.
And that is brilliant. I know it's been parodied and it's been talked about and everything, but people probably don't believe that they did used to do that, but they did. They would film an ending, and the good guy would get killed, no question about it. And then the next week, something different had happened, and they'd hope that you'd forgotten.
Well, one of the last films to do that was actually the Evil Dead series. So at the end of one film, it would never quite tie up with the next film. And I think it was partly purposeful, kind of like love letter to this kind of thing, and partly probably budgetary, or like when they're writing the next film, it's like, no, we don't want to do this. We'll do this instead.
Like one of the big things, and you used to see this regular in these series, was that the hero would be driving along, being chased, and quite clearly it'd go over a cliff at the end of the episode. And then the next episode would start, and they'd get out of the car and set it going. And to fool who was chasing them, that went over the cliff.
Or, I mean, there were even more extreme versions where it's like you'd see it going way over the cliff, and the next episode they just stop in the nick of time. Like they don't even go over the cliff.
Yeah, I saw one where there's this big fort in the middle of the desert, and there's a truck driving towards it, and it drives into the gates, and it smashes, and it blows up. And then the next week, it's driving towards the fort. They open the gates on the fort, and the truck goes through the gates. And it's just crazy stuff. Though that does make me wonder, actually. I know you said, like, the Evil Dead was sort of last time we're doing it. We're kind of doing this again in a weird way with things like Terminator Dark Fate. That comes out, and we go, forget about Terminator 3, 4, and 5. They don't count. This is the proper one.
Yeah, but that's more a kind of case of forgetting a whole film as opposed to the end of the film. Then but I know what you mean. You're right.
Like a lot of these, what you've got to remember is these theatre serials. They were designed for a time where you used to pay to go to the cinema every Saturday morning. These were released for children, and like. We had it, Eden Cinema, where I grew up. You used to be able to go on a Saturday morning, and you had about 4 or 5 hours you could go in for, and it was 50p. And there'd be some movie and something else, and wildlife documentary and cartoons, and they'd have these serials, and you could go every week. And these things were designed to, oh my God, what happened there? And the kids dying to go back to see how it ended the next week.
Elliot, I was going to joke that you'd still have change from a Bob note. You literally would.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lost art, I suppose, this type of cliffhanger. I mean, obviously... Would
it upset you when I started going to pubs? I could get 6 pints and a pack of crisps for £5.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky to get the pint now.
I remember you could get a
pint
pint
and a pack of crisps for £5.
You could get a pound pint when I started going to the pubs.
There you go. I never could, but there you go. There's like, again, going back to like how it's aping the style of it. Like they've got the great way they do the screen wipes, which are probably better known from Star Wars now. That was a thing that and George Lucas was doing it as an homage to these sorts of things. But yeah, I love that they've got that in. And there's a great joke where Harry's going, oh, well, this looks the same as that planet we went to last week. And, it's almost like it's the same set. And it's
I love that because that's so Star Trek as well. Because
exactly, that's the thing. It's not even that they're going, well, let's have a joke at the expense of the original series. No, Voyager does this. Voyager and DS9 and TNG had that set that I think they called it Planet Hell. That's it. And it's exactly the same. It's just a big rock formation. So very.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's absolutely wonderful the fact that they can do this clear homage to the those serials which we're talking about.
Well, and then there's a nice part. There's a nice part where they're coming into crashing like the rocket ship, and they're pressing the control panel and that, and the control panel's going like that. It's clearly cardboard and just odds and ends put together, and the whole thing is like it's a homage to these old series, and we used to. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and then obviously we get, because it's a holodeck episode, so something's obviously got to go wrong, and there's got to be an external threat. And we get that in the form of, and I really like the effect, how you have these lights, but the lights are in colour, and they're the only thing that's in colour within the scene. I think that's really nicely done. It looks really, really good. And then there's how it manifests itself externally. And I don't think this part of the episode really works, but then it's not that important either, so it kind of doesn't matter that it doesn't work. But this whole thing about, Voyager's been held in place, and we're trying to ratchet up a little bit of tension with what's going on with Voyager. And I
could have had the whole episode as a bottle episode on the holodeck, I think that they actually reduced the episode for it.
I like some of these shots, like, as you all know, I build models, and I've got a Voyager project that I'm sort of working into. And this episode has some of the best shots of Voyager close-ups, because it's stood still. You get this beautiful shot of it from behind, so you see all its impulse engines and how all the lights work. There's a shot later on where you get this beautiful upward shot of the lower saucer, so you can see where all the thrusters and everything are and what colours they are. And it's a lot of Voyager's actually in quite dark lighting, so you can't see everything clearly. And this one, they've just got it lit beautifully, so you can see what colours it's meant to be, where things are. It's static, it's long shots. It's like, I've got a lot of watching of this episode in my future.
I mean, Elliot, for a start, Retrek Model Studios on YouTube, please check it out. Elliot does some wonderful work there, just for a start. And I mean, I love the fact you've got this. I just wish they'd fit it into an episode where it was more about Voyager than the holodeck. Well, I think you could have had a whole episode on the holodeck. You could have had a bit more with the Doctor. This was what I didn't like, and we'll get onto it as we get in. But like,
the problem is
the Doctor was kind of thrown away in a holodeck episode.
When you have Voyager episodes, Voyager's going somewhere or doing something.
Yeah.
And I think it's possibly the nature of it being a physical model and being moved, and then they have to put umpteen scenes and all that to get the whole image that we see. That you don't get these clear shots. So when they have Voyager static and stood still, is when you can get these beautiful shots of it.
But you could have had that in another episode. I feel like there are other episodes where you're static, and they maybe could have done those shots.
Yeah, there's loads of episodes you'd think, we'll get some lovely shots of Voyager here.
Yeah.
It's really awful. And this episode is just beautiful.
It's probably the ship, which is still the most, because it always runs out of bloody fuel. So, like, if there's one show where you could have had this in other episodes, it's this one.
Yeah, my argument there would be, there's a lot of Voyager episodes where there's not a lot going on, and it's not got a really interesting central concept to it. Stick the Voyager static shots in that one.
Please
expand on the good stuff in this episode. I just don't think the Voyager stuff works. I don't think they do a good enough job of tying it in. And like, you go back to like the DS9 Armand Bashir, where they pay lip service to why it's a threat to everybody else, but they do it just enough, and they don't faff on with it like they do in this one. But back on the holodeck, though, there's some great stuff. Like, you've got Tom gets his Indiana Jones moment where he just shoots one of the guards, which it's a great gag, and it always will be. So, and again, if you're gonna homage something in this style, Indiana Jones was obviously very much an homage to the movie serials and everything. Then there's this weird thing about they managed to get off the holodeck, but it's still running, and they sort of explain it a little bit later on. Like, Tim Voss, like, why is it running?
It's sort of like they can't shut the holodeck down, they can't get access, make an arc to exit, and all that. But they managed to beam themselves off.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think they were so fixated on this wonderful stuff they did in the holodeck, and don't get me wrong, it's great. that they sort of forgot some really obvious Star Trek stuff, like of King of Holodeck. They could have justified it so much better by saying, "Oh, the aliens which are coming in, they're interfering with it. They're keeping it."
Yeah.
You know, there's so many other ways they could have justified it, and they didn't. It's like, as I say, you know, the way they use the crew in this, like, you know, of course, Harry and Tom have to be central. They're Captain Proton and Laser Boy or whatever Harry's character is. You know, that makes sense to me. But I think that's where this episode lets itself down. Where, again, like, why bother with any of the Voyager stuff? Like, just keep it on the holodeck. Have a bottle episode. We're enjoying ourselves. Stay there.
Yeah, I'd have been happy and, you know, Robert Duncan Mandel evidently agrees with me. I'd have been happy just watching a Captain Proton without even breaking the fourth wall and doing this is thing. Just give me an episode of Captain Proton. I'd have been well happy with that. But
I still feel like it's a Star Trek episode. So, like you were saying with Armand Bashir, that is ostensibly a Armand Bashir episode, but with a little bit of Star Trek thrown in.
Yeah,
and I think they could have done that with this a bit more deftly.
They could have done. And if we'd have just done Captain Proton, we wouldn't have got Kate Mulgrew as Arachnia, which is just
that was
fantastic. Fun. So
yeah.
I like the concept of the aliens, that they're photonic life forms, and they think that they're effectively making first contact. You know, they're holograms of the real people.
Yeah.
And I always like it when Star Trek does a life form that's not a bipedal human, and they actually take a bit of time to unpack the idea of, well, how's that going to be different to what we usually do, and what are they going to think when they see our world that's so different to theirs? And so, yeah, I do like the concept of it.
Can I just throw in with that, though? Because I agree with you, and I think they unpack it nicely. The only thing I do find is they've got so many elements, and again, maybe this is the kind of where they disappear in Voyager. They could have lost a couple of scenes and beat this out. I feel like the character of the hologrammatic beings was kind of a little lost, because they spent ages explaining them, and you got about 2 scenes with them.
Yeah, and then
and then they just disappear.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like it's a really good concept, is this, with the photonic beings, but it's almost like they had to think of a reason why they got trapped in the Captain Proton episode, as opposed to exploring. Oh, we've come up with this really interesting concept of how. Let's look at it a bit more. It's sort of like, oh, we've got a good idea how they've got trapped. Great. Now let's get back to Captain Proton.
Yeah, would it have been more interesting maybe if they'd have had the photonic beings as a more active presence? You know, if they'd have become one of the heroes or even one of the villains within the holodeck.
And they literally got someone killed, and all they really get is the Doctor, who, by the way, this is the ultimate episode you could do for him in a lot of ways. Like, he's found beings like him who are a dominant life form in this sector. And what he gets, like, hey, geez, that's neat. Let me go and dress up as the president, say hi to them, and then fuck off again. Like, that's all he gets. The holographic people don't really appear. I just feel like that is such a key thing in there. That should have been the sort of B storyline for me, is the aliens and the Doctor getting that feeling of actually being like mattering here.
It would have been interesting to have, obviously, because the Doctor is a hologram and so he can come onto the holodeck, if they had to make him the hero of it. So you could have a brilliant thing where you've got Tom as Captain Proton, but then the Doctor comes in as like super Captain Proton, and he's an even cooler character than Tom.
I love that. I was just thinking you could have done something a bit like, do you know the film Mallrats?
Yes.
Bit of a random pull here, but there's a wonderful scene whereby this guy thinks he's doing the Jedi mind trick. And behind the scenes, someone whacks the stage and a video just flies up and falls into this guy's hand. Like,
that's Kevin
for
Smith.
For people who don't know, I won't explain what is, but like, that's all you need to know. Basically, someone thinks they're doing the Jedi mind trick, and it's basically someone just shoving something and something falling into their hands.
Yeah.
And I thought you could have done something like that. So you've got Tom Paris thinking he's the savior and he's like saving the day, and then you've got the Doctor doing something intricate on the computer, and just at that moment it makes it look like Tom's being the hero, which also plays the whole idea that it's holograms, that it's not
Yeah,
real.
that'd have been cool. Like a Cyrano de Bergerac sort of thing, but the Doctor pulling the strings. Right, we have been critical of the Voyager side of it. However, there is a very funny scene with Janeway and Neelix where she wants a coffee and she's not happy at all. She's kicking off.
Yeah, he goes, but we've only got 2 replicators left on the whole ship. I don't care. Coffee, black, now.
Yeah. Which shows you, even in the 24th century, still the people in charge get what they want.
Yeah. But then it goes into even weird thing, like the toilets are down.
Yeah.
Then,
2 toilets left.
You called me out on this, Dr. Squee, the other week. You called me out on my Boolean racism. And the Booleans, it's mentioned here that if a Boolean uses the toilet, there's serious trouble. So
Hey.
It might have been justified.
It's not racist. That's acknowledging their pain, their struggle to use the toilet safely.
And then Neelix.
I'm recognizing them.
Neelix comes out with perhaps one of his greatest plans ever. Let's do a rota for the toilets. I'm not sure that's a great idea, Neelix.
Yeah, I think I'll need to go 3:00 on Tuesday, please.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work for me, Neelix. I'm sorry.
Like I can feel the pain here. Like anyone who's ever been to a festival with them portaloos, and half of them are blocked up by day 3.
The same with LARPing.
Yeah, you can understand what they're going through here.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh god, yeah. Whenever you go LARPing, you use the toilet on the
I
first
did,
day, and that's it. The bushes.
What was it? Leeds Fest. Was it 2000 or 2001? And the campsite I'd got on, like all the campsites that they have so many portaloos at the bottom. And a bunch of idiots decided that they'd burn most of them down. So we had, for most of the weekend, we had like on our campsite just 2 portaloos, which wasn't great.
Yeah, that's not great at all. I really like the robot, who's very much sort of Marvin the android, sort of crossed with Robin Robot. I
can't remember which of the 30 serials it was, but there's actually I think it is actually called Satan's Robot.
Right.
And it does look like this.
Yeah.
They've actually used one of the robots. I think it's really got a few things on the front different, but
Paramount did do a lot of these serials, so it's quite possible they went their own archive.
I love how Tom just gives it a whack in one of the scenes as well, like when it's talking too much. You just like
Tom gives it a whack in one of the scenes. I must have missed this.
I don't know if you noticed when he gives it the whack, like this is like a completely static, almost like a can with a couple of things stuck on the front of it. But it manages to look really sort of downtrodden and dejected because of it. And it's like whoever's inside that managed to pull off that, how they moved.
Yeah, very, very good.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And then I love the bit where Tom's briefing Janeway on it, and he has to explain the whole story. It's like his army of evil. That's great. That's really, really good fun. And then there's the whole bit where he wants Janeway to play Arachnia, and Tuvok's been really sarcastic about the whole thing up until then. And then all of a sudden, once Janeway wants to be involved with it, he's suddenly on board with it. You know, this is such a stupid
he's always been a Janeway kiss up. He's always been a Janeway kiss
up. He's a suck up.
This is shocking, Mr. Paris. I can't believe you're talking about armies. Oh, the captain's involved. Oh, no, brilliant. Logical.
Well, you see in that episode where he brings her... I was going to prove another point. I was going to say when he brings her tea, but that's Sulu. Actually, it does kind of make the point, because he then goes like, "You never brought me tea," and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, no." Oh. So I think he's always been a kiss up to the captain.
He has, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then, Tom explains also, and she's got these pheromones that drive me. It is just great. Janeway's very good at playing like the straight man in these comedy roles. Like, she hams it up later, but she's that kind of character where the very thought of her doing these ridiculous things is intrinsically funny even before she sort of throws herself into the role. So it's a really good, awkward scene where Tom's having to explain all of this.
I think for me, though, you could have done, like, again, it speaks to kind of getting the Doctor involved. Don't get me wrong, Janeway and Catherine Mulgrew, hilarious. But imagine her playing off Rob Picardo, who also is just like, he was so hilarious throughout the whole series. I think those two could have done quite a pairing on this episode.
Yeah, I mean, could
the thing is, it's really interesting how little they use Robert Picardo in this episode. They say it's a holographic episode and a photonic life form episode. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's such a waste.
Yeah, although you can look at the other side, because like the Doctor, I think arguably probably gets the second most amount of episodes after Janeway. There is a lot of Doctor episodes. I know Seven got a lot when she was introduced, but I think the Doctor, because he had 3 seasons before, I think there's probably more Doctor episodes.
Maybe
no, completely. Yeah, but I just think that's because he earns it. He is one of the best. Like, he's one of the most entertaining.
Well, we've said it before, haven't we? The Doctor is probably the most developed character ever in Star Trek. From his starting point to his end point, where
he's great.
Where we last saw him, and like, there's every possibility that we could have the Doctor show up in Discovery, because there's no reason why he couldn't be 1,000 years old.
I'll even add to that I think that Robert Picardo himself gets very underrated. Like, I was a fan of him from Inner Space. Like, I go back that far with him.
And the cowboy.
Don't knock, just come. Like, just doing the most ridiculous accent, but he's just hilarious. And in Voyager, we remember him for all the funny episodes, but there's some really great stuff when he's in the Darkling, and there's another episode where he's kind of like playing lovesick and he's just so mournful. There is so much which he does, which I think he earns that episode count.
Definitely. And then sort of the end of it is Janeway's doing this thing of she's trying to get him to lower the force field. I think maybe
the lightning shield.
The lightning shield, sorry.
Stolen directly from Flash Gordon.
Absolutely.
Not much.
I think she lays it on a bit too thick. She's not playing her cards close to her chest here. She's just like, why don't you lower the lightning field? Lightning field.
Right. To be fair, she's actually... That is very much what you'd get in a 1930s serial.
Well, it is.
She's actually playing it brilliantly.
That's true. Yeah, I suppose the reason Chaotica doesn't think it's weird is because that's how everybody talks.
I mean, if anything, Janeway's a bit too good. Like, it works for the episode, but I think Janeway would be a lot more reluctant than this. She seems to be really enjoying herself.
Like, I like one of my favourite parts is like where you've got Chaotica and he's talking about how they're going to be married and this will be your throne, and she sits in the throne and she says, actually, this feels rather comfy. I feel I'm at home here. And I just thought that was brilliant.
And I like that she deploys a bit of Kirk Fu when she escapes. She does like a chop. It's almost like John Pertwee's Doctor with his Venusian Aikido.
He had Venusian judo.
There you go. Yeah. So I like that she does that. And as we said, I don't think they're trying to add a bit of tension with Voyager works, because they sort of cut back to Voyager at this point. We're not going to get out and whatever.
I know I'm being a massive geek here, but I have to say James was right. It's Venusian Aikido.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
I was trying not to say it, but I couldn't stop myself.
That's fine. I'll openly admit I have nowhere near watched as much Doctor Who as you, Dr. Squee.
Comes with the territory.
And that's about it, really. The good guys win. Or do they? Because you get that really cool ending with the question mark, which again is lifted directly from the Flash Gordon film. But
like to be fair though, I can't remember who it was that Buck Rogers fought in the 30s serials, but all these serials, like most of them had multiple series.
yeah.
And the bad guy, even if they were killed or whatever, always came back for the next one. It was always the same actors.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was a kid, and I'd always missed in the first Star Wars film where Darth Vader regains control of his TIE fighter after the Battle of the Death Star. But then he was in Empire Strikes Back. But I remember thinking that wasn't weird. So I was like, oh, well, the baddie always comes back. And
Yeah.
I remember watching it once with my dad, and I was like, I've never seen that bit before. And he said, well, why didn't you think then that he shouldn't be in the next one? I was like, well, no, because, the baddie always gets killed, but then always comes back next week.
Oh, fuck. We were just talking about Doctor Who, the Master. Jeez, how many times did he die? And just to go, it's like, no, I had a third TARDIS hidden in the burning building, which you had me trapped in.
But I liked it where they even got to the point where they stopped explaining it. Like, there's the one, is it one of the Peter Davison ones where he gets obliterated by the matter obliteration destructor thing? And it's like, you see him get destroyed, and then he comes back with Colin Baker, and not a word, nothing.
I mean, most of the time it's just usually one line, but it's so crap. It's like, oh yes, well, that tree, that was my TARDIS, of course, or that that thing you bound me up with, that was actually a transporter array. Like, there was just so many lame excuses.
But they don't even bother with the Colin Baker one.
No,
yeah, it came back. And same with the recent ones. We still don't know where this new Master's come from and where it fits into the timeline and blah, blah, blah. And while we're talking about the Master, I recently bought one of them box sets that's come out, and it's the John Pertwee season where they first introduced the Master. And so he's in every single serial in that run. But there's 5 stories in that run, and they still try and pass it off as a surprise when the Master turns up. So by the 3rd story, you get to episode 2, and they're like, well, we're all working for Mr. So-and-so. And you're like, well, it's going to be the Master, isn't it? No.
The way it was plotted,
and he turns up, really? Oh, there we go.
Because the way they did it was the fact that the Doctor was stuck on Earth because he got all his knowledge of time and space taken out of his head by the Time Lords. So he had this kind of series or 2 on Earth where it's just like you'd have him like he was knocking about with Unit like every week, and so the Master was just the go-to every week.
Yeah, but it's the fact that they try and play it as a surprise every time. And it's like, it works if you haven't seen him in a few years or if he's disguised in some way. But it was just the episode 3 cliffhanger. Every time that season is dun, dun, dun. Here he is. Anyway, we digress. So that's Bride of Chaotica. Anyone got any more on that one before we move on to DS now?
I think we can unanimously say it's a great fun episode. Anyone who hasn't watched it for a while or hasn't watched it before, put it on. It's just good fun to watch.
Yeah, I think we nailed the fact that it's a great fun episode. The fact they've got so many nods to the classic serials, and then they dip in a bit of Star Trek love for the kind of original series and kind of some nods to that, and even this current series at the time. But like we say, I think there's some missed opportunities. It's a really good episode. It could have been a great episode.
Yeah, I'd agree. And you know what? I'm just thinking now, if they're going to do a Captain Proton, just make it an animation. And then you can have Robert Duncan McNeil, Garrett Wong doing the voices, no problem. And do it in a sort of that style of like Roger Ramjet or whatever. That would be pretty cool. Anyway.
You know what I am worried about, though, is we're 40 minutes into the episode. We've got Heart of Stone from DS9 to cover. I'm worried we won't have enough time to do it justice. Shall we keep on talking about Bride of Chaotica for another 5 minutes?
No, let's just go into Heart of Stone. It doesn't matter if we overrun.
No, I was mocking Heart of Stone. Don't worry. It was a subtle joke at Heart of Stone, but okay.
Well, we don't have to be subtle with the digs at Heart of Stone, but
Well, there's actually some great things in Heart of Stone.
Yes. We were talking just before you came on the line, Squeed, that I'd forgotten that this was the episode where the B plot is Nog wanting to go to Starfleet Academy. And that is a great storyline.
It is, but doesn't it just show every member of Deep Space Nine just being a complete dick to him? Like, I understand them being a bit cynical about a Ferengi joining Starfleet and Nog with his past, but everyone is a grade A dick to him all the way through this episode.
Yeah, Dax is all right, I suppose. She kind of
Dax isn't.
Dax sticks up for him, but Sisko's really weird with him.
Actually, I think Sisko plays this actually brilliantly with Nog.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think he takes it a bit far at the end where he grabs him and he's roughing him up and he's like,
why do you want to join Starfleet? You bastard!
He does. Just get over it. But the other side of the storyline, to say, we've been building up and it's been done subtly, and this thing of Odo having feelings for Kira, and this isn't a great payoff to it, really. It's all a bit hokey and stagey, and obviously it pulls the rug out from under you that it's not even Kira anyway at the end. So I think René Auberjonois does really well with it, but I think it deserved a bit better. And that relationship will get its due in later episodes, but I think this is a bit of a misstep on the road to getting there, and it doesn't do anything significant to advance anybody's story arc. Like, we know Odo's in love with Kira. Kira doesn't know that. We finished the episode in exactly the same state of play, and the female changeling's not really learned anything. Odo's not really learned anything about the Founders and what they're up to. So,
the female changeling has learned why Odo won't come home.
Yeah, but she kind of knew anyway.
Yeah. And also, do they pay it off really later?
Yeah, they do.
So it's a weird one. But yeah,
where do they pay? Sorry, just to Elliot's point, where do they pay that off then in another episode?
Actually, I'm thinking, do they pay it off?
I think they do to an extent, because you have the female changeling when DS9's occupied, pretty much using Odo and taking him away from Kira, and ultimately he chooses Kira over.
Oh, that's interesting.
To an extent, it is, but
I never considered that related to that. So
it's a funny episode, is this, because it's called Heart of Stone. And the A story is the Odo Kira story. But I much prefer the B story.
I do.
And the B story gets as much time as the A story. And it's the end of this episode, which is unusual.
Yeah, it's almost like they realise they want enough meat on the bones of the A story to really pad this one out. So, the plot's very thin. So they're chasing a Maquis allegedly into these caves, which, look very familiar. Captain Proton would be proud.
Never seen caves like this before in Star Trek.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the setup. And then Kira gets trapped by, it's not a rock, it's a crystal. It should be called Heart of Crystal. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, they start talking about this. Can we get your foot out? Can we beam you out? We can't do this. We can't do that. What you want to do, you want to go all James Franco in 127 hours? You need to be sawing a foot off, never mind.
I love that. You're straight to sawing the foot off. Nothing else.
If the crystal is going to kill her, which it is, there's no other way out. The cave's going to come down. Just whack the foot. She even suggests it. She says, you could cut my foot off and Julian could show us how great a doctor he is. Yes, he could.
I think the idea is that Odo thinks that they can do another way. But yeah, you are right. In this day and age, they can regrow a foot quite easily.
To be fair, I think at first, when it's just a foot, okay. But when the crystal keeps growing, and it's obviously going to kill her, you've got to make that choice that, how much of a lower legs are we gonna lose here?
Yeah,
Am I gonna lose? And am I gonna lose them below the knee? Or am I gonna lose them just below the waist?
And could they cauterize the wound in time?
Odo's got an important decision to make here. He's got to decide, right, I love this woman. Do I need the important bits keeping? Or am I off to cut her off above that?
The important bits.
And by that...
Elliot!
By that we mean...
But you know what I mean?
All of Kira.
He's got a decision. When is he going to make the cut?
Well, I'm thinking now, though, and I'm maybe giving her a bit too much credit, that maybe the female changeling realizes, oh, hang on, Odo would be up for cutting the foot off here. And maybe that's why she gets the phaser and shoots it so that it grows quicker. She's like, I need to make sure he doesn't start lopping bits off here because I'll be...
I'm just imagining, like, you know, Odo's there going, it's like, look, okay, there's two important decisions. I've got to get in touch with Starfleet Command and just check what's going on. Okay, I know he's not part of Starfleet, but for the joke, let's continue going. And he's going, it's like, Admiral Elliot, what should we do? And Elliot's there with his kind of sword in one hand, cigar in the other, in the Admiral's Club going, well, just keep the important bits and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Torso.
You know the bits I mean.
Yeah. We know what we mean, Odo. Come on. How far's it gone up, if you know what I mean, Odo?
Yeah. And how far do you want to go up, if you know what I mean?
I'm sure Odo doesn't have as dirty a mind as some people on this podcast. Anyway, on to Nog then. So Nog goes to see Sisko and he starts bribing him, which is quite a good fun scene where he's like, you know, I've brought you this gift, and he keeps shaking his hand and everything. And I like the idea that Ferengi, once they come of age, have to buy an apprenticeship. Like, you know, you don't, there's no free education or free apprenticeship. You've got to buy your way into something.
Well, I get the impression here is like, is that his like he said it was his, what did he call it? He didn't call it ascension.
No, it says like, coming of age.
Yeah, it'd become an adult. So what he's basically showing who he wants an apprenticeship from is how well he's been able to earn money just as a child without a trade.
That's very true. Yeah.
I have no trade. I want an apprenticeship with you. And this is how good I am before I even come to you.
I think that's nicely done, because if they'd done it so that it was like he didn't do that, it's almost saying it's like Nog kind of gets in his heart what it is to be Starfleet, and he wants to do that. But of course, he's got his upbringing. He's been brought up as a Ferengi. He's been brought up to know things a certain way. So it'd be weird if he didn't like make some missteps following the Ferengi way.
What I did like was like, I can't remember the name of the law it is, but Nog is 100% aware and by name of what law of Ferengi he is following by offering Sisko a bribe here for an apprenticeship.
Yeah,
that if he doesn't do this, he is actually breaking the law.
Yes, very true. I've not thought of that. And it's you're right that it is this thing of, it doesn't occur to Nog to ask how you get into Starfleet Academy. He just assumes that because that's the way his culture works, you bribe a commanding officer, and that's how you get in. It's not, he's not doing anything wrong here. No. It's just that that's the only world he knows.
Like, I think this actually shows Sisko up quite a lot. That Sisko is dealing with Ferengi, and he hasn't learnt this part of the custom. But also, he's sort of like, can you follow the rules and all that? With Starfleet, it has all these rules. And yet, Nog, when he's offering him the bribe, has told him exactly which law it is and what subsection of the law.
Yeah, and it's rude in a way for Sisko to refuse the bribe. It's insulting.
Well, I think he's going to refuse the bribe still, because apparently he did consult the Admiral in Starfleet. The Admiral just said, keep the bribe, tell the little fuck to piss off.
Yeah, go on now, man. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, the dynamic and everything. And then you get that bit later on where there's Rom and Nog working on a replicator. And Nog says, "Oh, it's my fault." And Quark says, "Of course it is. It's in your contract." And
anything that goes wrong is your fault.
Yeah, that's typical. That's very, very Ferengi. And you know what?
And yet, Nog
I
goes
won't be surprised if it said that in my contract.
Nog says to him, "I told you if we don't do some maintenance on this replicator that's used constantly, once a week, it might break down." Yeah, but you didn't say it would break down, so that's your fault.
Actually, I mean, this is lovely, and I think almost they could have made a little bit more of it. I think if they'd had Sisko more like suspicious rather than just kind of like, no, he's definitely up to no good. I think they could have played that a bit better, and they could have played a bit better that Nog. I mean, this is quite shocking. He's seeing his dad being basically abused. He is trying his best. I think they could have shown that throughout the episode a bit more. And then the ending would have paid off even better.
That's the other thing, is this episode's really good for Rom's development as well.
Yeah.
Because up until this point, Rom has always been just presented as an idiot. And we learn now there's a lot more to him. And obviously that will be developed
To be fair, we've seen quite a few hints of this, of just how good he is with engineering previously.
Yes.
Like, he broke into that Assayer's office and everything. Yeah. Like, it just, what he needs to do this. And we had the part where he'd stolen Quark's old disruptor pistol because he needed to fix
parts from it. Yeah,
he needed the parts to fix the replicator.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, these are two completely different items. But, and we've seen these hints that Rom is a brilliant engineer previously.
I think another missed opportunity. Sorry, Squeak, go on.
No, just very quickly. I was just going to say, this is why I kind of didn't like the fact that season 2 onwards, he developed that, this kind of voice. And it was like, it was overplaying the dumb, I felt. Like, so then when you do get the character development and him actually being pretty smart, just undervalued, I felt like that voice was just always a bit clown shoes. Like in the first series, he doesn't do it. And it just seemed weird that it suddenly comes in.
It took him a while to find the voice. Like, if you go back and watch the episode.
Well, he was only hired for one episode.
Yeah, he's this really aggressive character. He's like, don't be doing that. You know, and you watch it and you're like, that's not Rom. That's so weird.
Yeah, it was never meant to come back after Emissary.
Well, he's only listed as Ferengi pit boss in that episode. They've not even. He's just a guy working at the bar. But no, I was going to say, I think another perhaps missed opportunity is we had that sort of story arc with Sisko trying to push Jake to be in Starfleet, and then ultimately Jake turning around and saying, no, that's not what I want to do. And I think it'd have been nice to have Sisko acknowledge in some way, I wanted to pass all this on to my son, and now I'm getting the opportunity to do that from this person, the person I would have last expected in the world to be the person that I could mentor. I think some acknowledgement of that would have been interesting.
I think it's where you could perhaps borrow a dash of Discovery for a DS9 and that kind of era of next gen, of kind of that emotional maturity. And maybe like where Discovery can get over, like, they stub their toe and it's like, oh my God, I'm sorry, this has happened to you. Oh my, I think they can meet halfway between the two.
I think
with something really special.
And I think DS9 does that well most of the time, but there are a couple of bits where you could have maybe played it up. But another bit, just a completely throwaway scene, but again showing how subtly progressive DS9 could be. You've got Sisko and Dax chatting about a male ensign who's about to have babies, and nothing's made of it. It's just they mention it, that's it. And
they're really happy for him. He has a talk with Julian about it and all that. Exactly. And is there anything going on? Yeah, we're having a baby shower for him.
I think it becomes a running joke later in the show that this ensign keeps having babies, and they're like, what? He's pregnant again? And so, but, just for anybody out there who says, Star Trek never used to talk about identity politics before Discovery. So, that's nice.
Star Trek has done politics and identity politics
Exactly.
since TOS.
Since day one.
Back to Odo and Kira then. Again, there's not much going on here, is there? Odo's got this idea we'll use a special sound to do it. And all of a sudden we find out all this stuff that Odo's busy mates with Chief O'Brien. Like, I went kayaking with Chief O'Brien. Chief O'Brien lent me this book. And we've not seen this. Where, we've seen them interact with each other, but there's been no hint that there's this level of camaraderie.
Yeah, we go kayaking. Like, Chief O'Brien does all the singing. I don't get involved in that bit. It's not like... No, this is Julian Bashir and Chief O'Brien.
Yeah.
Not Odo and Chief O'Brien. And the thing is, this is never shown later in the show.
No, exactly.
That they have this relationship.
It's just a strange one to put out there. They obviously just wanted Odo to be able to regale Kira with some sort of anecdote, but
I wonder if already at this point he suspected that it wasn't Kira, and he was saying things.
Yeah,
that Julian Bashir does with Chief O'Brien, as if he does them to catch her out, and her not agreeing with it is But then you have why after doing this did he profess his love for her?
It takes him a hell of a long time to realise, even after this.
I mean, frankly, Elliot, I think you're being a better writer than the writers were, because in the first scene, I felt it was a bit forced when he was there saying about, oh yeah, but you didn't ask me if I wanted to be invited to the thing, which just doesn't feel like Odo. He's never come across like that in any other episode.
It's I'm not being funny, Odo, but this is one episode after Vedic Burials died, which, for the viewers is cause for celebration. But for Kira, she's been through a load of trauma here. So do you really want to be giving her grief about speaking for you in a thing and then confessing your love to her? The body's barely cold, Kira.
Yeah,
she doesn't seem bothered.
There's one great part of this whole interaction between Kira and Odo that takes part, and it's where he says how he got his name.
Yes, that's great.
And I absolutely love this. And
old unknown sample there.
Well, Odo Tatal.
Odo Ital.
In Cardassian.
Isn't it Odo Ital?
Odo Ital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because I always remember it from this episode. I don't know why. Weird shit sticks in my memory. People's names, nothing.
Yeah.
Odo Ital. Perfect.
But I do like that his name is Unknown Sample.
Yeah, Unknown Sample, literally nothing. And yeah, that is really, really good. And it's good that he talks about how through his relationships with her and with everyone else on the station, he's been able to reclaim it. And he's got to the point that he isn't offended hearing the name. So I think that's a really, really good character beat for him. What else? That is pretty much it. And then he confesses his love. And I think René Auberjonois plays it really well. So after he says, I'm in love with you, he breaks down completely. And it's really well done because to Odo, it is this thing that he's been bottling up and he's absolutely devastated to have to say it, and I think he plays that really, really well. It'd have been nicer if it had had any sort of consequence to it. And, we don't get that moment for another 3 seasons at least before we...
Yeah, I think it's 3 seasons before we see it.
I mean, to be honest with you, if anything, I think... I don't want to say this because, Nana Vista is a wonderful actor, wonderful in so many episodes of DS9. I don't think this was one of her best episodes. There was a few scenes where, when she's pretending that she's just been fired upon, and she's talking about it, she just gives such weird looks and such weird reactions. Well, I think she's quite shown up by how good René Auberjonois' acting is. Actually,
I think this is really, really clever by Nana Visitor, and it's something that you don't realise until sort of the reveal on the first watch, because it's not Nana Visitor, it's not Kira,
Yeah.
So she isn't acting normal.
No.
all
I
the
know
way
she's not
through.
normal, but I think her reactions are just so janky. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
it. Maybe she was trying so hard to do
it
that.
isn't Kira. That's the point.
No, I know.
So you've got Nana Visitor playing somebody who looks and sounds like Kira, who isn't Kira. So she's playing it where she is doing little bits,
I know what you're saying. I get it.
Sort of a bit odd. So that's actually really, really good.
I get you. I feel your argument. I think it's a really good argument. Just for me, it comes across as bad acting, which I know she's not a bad actor. I'm not trying to say that she is.
But that's my point, that she's playing it.
Yeah, I get it.
She's playing it as not being Kira, looking and sounding like Kira.
You think it's the female changeling who's not a good actress? Not.
What I think is that in all these scenes, Kira, like Nana Visitor, obviously is aware that she's playing the female changeling who looks like Kira, who she normally plays.
Yes.
And sounds like her. Mm. So she's doing these little things to sort of, no, I'm not Kira. So if you watch, once you've seen it, like we've seen this episode, I don't know how many times. We've all watched it numerous times.
Yeah.
But if you think to your first time of watching, there's a big reveal when it isn't Kira. But Nana Visitor is giving you the clues all the way through that it isn't Kira if you're watching them.
I really don't understand your argument.
And if this was modern TV, how within an hour of it being released, there's a umpteen YouTube videos of 20 Easter eggs that point out all these things.
Again, I get it. I do get it, and I get your argument. I think it's very well argued. But just for me, as opposed to coming off like the changeling making missteps, it comes across as bad acting, which I don't think. I think it's just, for me, it feels like a bit misstepped. It just doesn't feel like, doesn't quite gel for me.
I mean, she wasn't given the best material, and she was in that rock thing, which doesn't look great. It's not a very good effect and everything. And it's got that silly bit where he goes, oh, where was he standing? Over here. Ah, but the rock's blocking it. Yeah, but the rock was only that big when he fired. It's now, come on.
Yeah, she could have gone.
Yeah, she could have, Matrixed it. Ronnie, they haven't got to good bits by the time they did that. But anyway, Odo works out it's not.
You see, no expense was spared in our special effects for this episode.
Absolutely. And
we got hit.
Odo works it out. It's not Kira, because Kira would never say she loves him. You know what, Odo? You might be wrong there, son. Give it 6 years. You never know. And it's the founder. We get a little tiny confrontation, which, no changelings ever harmed another. Foreshadowing. And that's about it, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
they go back to the station and...
Well, back to the station, we've got... we go back to the Nog thing where Cisco decides to test him.
Yeah, dude. Tell me now.
So, where he sent him to do a stock take.
Tell me.
Oh, yeah, he does the stock taking.
He does a stock take. And it's like there's a lot of expensive pieces of equipment there. Are you sure you want a Ferengi in there? And that's saying.
Yeah, no, that's racist. Ferengis.
It is. It's Ferengi racism. And Cisco goes, no. And then it turns out he does it. I'm gonna say, he's told to do this stock take in the morning, and he's asked to give it the results by the following morning. He says, no, I'll have it done before Cisco.
Yeah, he does it early. He does it in 5 hours.
So he's probably done it in half the time he's meant to. And not only that, he's done it better than a bunch of Starfleet officers managed to do a week before.
Well, that's it, because Cisco's potentially ready to accuse Nog of stealing.
No, that was Dax. No, let's be fair.
Sorry.
He wanted to see how he'd do with it, but it was Stax who said that there's a lot of equipment there that could go missing.
But he actually finds new things, so maybe it's Lightfingered O'Brien who's done the
yeah. It's like, oh, hold on, who from Starfleet did this last stock take, and why did you miss all this stuff? Let's watch you for the next couple of months of what goes missing.
Jim, like we're even going down the alley of it's not just O'Brien's light fingers, it's O'Brien's team's light fingers. He's there sitting at the desk going like, what do you got for me, boys?
Well, it is, isn't it? It's like, hold on.
In a pimp
like normally, but it's sort of implied that a stock take of this storage area is done by several people working together.
I remember.
So Nog's done it in half the time on his own, done a better job, and found stuff that they've missed. Like with all their censoring equipment and all the stuff that you'd expect with the technology, how are they missing items? That's somebody who's ready to help the Marquis.
This is
like if Edison was on board by now, I'd put my finger at him.
He's Eddington, because he start of season 3, yeah.
Oh well, so there you go.
That probably is who's going to go missing. But
that's why.
Sorry, this is a complete soundtrack, and I apologize. Exactly. I remember once when I had to do a stock take at a shop that I used to work at, which I won't name because it's gone out of business now. But yeah, we had to go do a stock take, and this assistant manager who were rubbish was showing us how to do the thing. And he goes, right, when there's a lot of them, so more than 5, you need to tick off each serial number, check each one, and make sure that you've got the serial number. Like, right, okay. He goes, if there's less than 5, you can do a physical count. I'm like, what's physical count? And he goes, I'll show you how to do a physical count. And he looks at it, and there's these 3 Xboxes stacked up, original Xboxes as well, that weighed a ton. And he goes, physical count, 1, 2, 3. And then ticks it. I'm like, oh, thanks for showing me how to do a physical count. I'd have really struggled with that if you wanted to show me how to. But he said it every time he went around, like, physical count, 1, 2, 3. Physical count, 1. Physical count, 1, 2. And why?
That's up there with judo chop. Physical count. What did you?
So personally, I'm quite good at stock taking, but that's from my time at started when I worked for Allied Domec because my entire bonus was based on it.
There you go. Well, I was not very good at it. I got told off. They were like, "You've missed off loads of things." I'm like, "Yeah," because do you know what I did? You give me the list. I went upstairs, sat upstairs for 20 minutes, and then ticked everything on it, and then brought it down.
we had
quid an hour.
I won't say the name of the firm or which store it was, but we had a girl working there that did the stock take one night, and we used to have these little cartons of chocolate powder to sprinkle on cappuccinos. And they used to come in packs of 6. So you might have a full pack, or you might have just 5 individual cartons left. And she did a stock take and managed to put down that we had 5,500 cartons of this chocolate shaking, and then couldn't work out why we weren't getting any delivered.
Okay. You didn't actually have 5,500.
Could you imagine having 5,500 cartons of chocolate cocoa powder?
It's quite little.
It's still a lot. It's 5,500 of them.
I'm surprised you didn't tell her that you had to open them and count all the grains. Yeah,
that's maybe how she got up to 5,500.
Yeah. Oh dear. Anyway. I think that about does us for Heart of Stone, does it?
Yeah, apart from obviously Cisco does all his bit of challenging Nog, why do you want to join Starfleet? Yeah. And Nog admits, I don't want to be like my father.
Yeah.
My father, if he was on Starfleet, he'd be a chief engineer. He's that brilliant with engineering. But he's stuck working for Quark.
Yeah. No,
And Cisco goes, I will send a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, it's a good payoff to the end. And obviously, you know, Nog becomes a really, really interesting and vital character going forward. So, yeah, I like the Nog story arc, and I'm glad we got to cover it here. And I'm glad it does
it's like
for this episode.
It's like, to be fair with this, like, we're doing an in-depth into the Dominion War. And we've covered this episode because of the changeling with Odo. And that's the A story. But the B story is the A story doesn't go a lot anywhere. But the B story has all your sort of starting of... Well, we've had glimpses of Ron previously with his how good an engineer, but we have sort of where he's going to go with how important with his engineering to the story of how great an engineer, what he does in the end. We have Nog going into becoming a cadet, and we know that Nog not only becomes a cadet, even though we don't see it in DS9, because of Discovery, we know how great an officer Nog must have been, because the starship is named after him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or that could have been Nog the Third. We don't know, but no, that's nothing.
No,
right? But
but we know that. But you don't get a starship named after you unless you are really great and pivotal for Starfleet.
The only thing I was going to add is just I completely agree. I think that perhaps just the that plot with Nog could have been a bit more nuanced. I think Captain Sisko could have had a lot better, more of a nuanced kind of view on it. He just seemed really like, nah, it's Nog. I'm just going to beat him around until he tells me why he's doing it. Like, he seemed almost arch. And I think what you've said is completely true about the A story about Odo and Kira. I just think that, like, there are so many episodes covering this and which do it better. You know, I think, and that's a storyline you're playing over so many, like pretty much throughout the whole show, you're playing this unrequited love story until they finally get it together at the end, that you need to use that very sparingly. So when you waste an episode like this and you do it pretty unnuancedly and you don't really nail the characters, it just it's just such a waste opportunity for me.
It's one of them. It takes us from point A to point B point A to point A. You know,
like Odo was admitted how in love with her he is, but she doesn't know.
Yeah. So
do you know
where we were?
What it made me think about was the episode where you've got the Children of Time, and that's the name of the episode where they're on the planet when and they do it so well, the storyline with Odo there, and him finally revealing to her knowing, but not like younger Odo not knowing. It's just so beautifully done. And then I look at this episode and go, oh shit, we could be watching this instead. Like, that's what it made me think. I could be watching that.
These are nicely reused prop here. And what's the episode called where it's that little sort of key thing?
Self-sealing stem ball.
No. Oh. We've already covered it.
Vortex.
And Kira is stored in the same chamber that the little girl was stored in.
Very good. That's good attention to detail. All right, then. Well, that does us for Heart of Stone. The next episode that we're going to put out into the world is going to be talking about Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 1. So that's going to be really exciting. And we're also going to talk about a bonus episode. We have a bonus episode that'll go out live, but the podcast will be Lower Decks. It's because of how we record and release the podcast. So we've got lots of content coming. Dr. Squee, what have you got coming up?
Dr. Squee Show Thursday on the Bear.live, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. on a Thursday. This week we're doing more of the your favorite lyrics from songs you like. So your favorite lyric from any song. And we're actually going to be playing our chat from Retrek last week. Captain Jim has very kindly said that we can play that out because basically I've been just busy and haven't arranged a guest. So that's what we're going to do this week, is playing like us talking about the animated Star Trek coming up.
There we go. You know what?
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't know if people caught it, but you did the release for Squeefest 3, is it?
Oh, yeah. First guest announcement from Squeefest 3, or Squeef 3, as I like to call it. So Squeefest 3, which is happening the 25th and 26th of September. There'll be loads more details coming up, but the first guest announcement is the amazing Ace herself from Doctor Who. Sophie Aldred is going to be our guest.
Awesome.
And loads more to come.
Absolutely brilliant. And I don't envy you that task, because I've met Sophie a couple of times at convention things, and I can barely make eye contact with her because I just remember being that little kid who she was like my big crush when I was watching Doctor Who. And I would find it very difficult.
It's worse than that. She's one of the nicest people ever as well. Whilst you're also going,
she is lovely, Sophie.
So good luck. I'm sure it'll be a really good interview.
Like, we'll be putting stuff up as well in the lead up, because it's all for a good cause, for charity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Retrek will be there, of course.
We will indeed. So if you want to get in touch with us, we're at RetrekPod. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com, or come and join us on the Facebook group and talk to us about Star Trek. Thanks for trekking with us this time. We'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper.